Joining me now from Jericho, which is, if you didn't know, is in the Jordan Valley, is Saeb Erekat, the Secretary General of the PLO Executive. For decades now, he is one of the recognizable voices of the Palestinian struggle for a homeland for decades. Saeb, you must be tired of all this.
I can't be tired. I can't be tired. It's about life or death. You know, 3 days ago, I buried my nephew, 26-year-old, who was shot and killed by the Israelis in cold blood. And if I get tired, it means more of the same. It means that this cycle of violence and killing will continue. And the only way to stop this is to end this tragic situation is through peace and through the two-state solution. So how can someone get tired of trying to save the lives of his children and his grandchildren?
I saw the video of your nephew as the car ran into the Israeli checkpoint. And first of all, let me say, I'm very sorry for your loss. I mean, he was a young man. Was he 28?
He was 26, and he was going to Bethlehem to bring his sister from the coiffeur, the salon, in her wedding day, 23rd of June, between 7 and 10 p.m. And if you notice the video, the car strayed. It was going 5 kilometers an hour. And then Ahmed tried to leave the car, if you see the video. And he left the car, raised his hands, tried to speak to them, but they did not give him a chance. They shot him 5 times and killed him in cold blood. And no one of them was threatened at that time. And I'm sure that Ahmed, something went wrong with the car, it's a rented car. And would someone go and commit a suicide on the day of his daughter's sister's wedding? Would someone promising as Ahmed, who has a printing company and so on? It's just they kill with impunity. And then, if as a Palestinian today, I cannot make a mistake. If I pass a soldier, I cannot put my hand in my pocket because he may shoot me, suspecting that I'm bringing something. I cannot fall. I cannot make any mistake. I cannot do anything. It's just trigger-happy killers in the roadblocks.
Well, I guess the Israelis would say that, you know, that to them seemed like an attack on their post. But regardless, I mean, this shows, you know, the way the two sides view each other. I mean, what one side views each other as, one side views one as a potential suicide bomber every time they come in contact with a Palestinian, and Palestinians view Israeli soldiers as somebody that will turn a gun on them and pull the trigger.
Well, look, I mean, last week they killed and murdered Iyad Halak, a 33-year-old autistic person in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem. And then they said the same thing they said about Ahmed, that he's threatened their soldier and so on and so on and so on. So once the story came out, and this is why I'm asking today for an international investigation. Because even if the car strayed and hit, whatever, I don't know what happened in the car. He left the car, he's unarmed, he's harmless, he's not threatening anyone. You shoot him 5 times? Why can't you stop him? Why can't you arrest him? Why can't you shoot him in the foot? Just, I mean, people must use their common sense to understand
well, Again, let me say, I'm sorry, that touches you personally.
They act with impunity. It's not, you know, of course it's personal. He's my nephew. This is the second nephew I lose in 3 years.
Okay, let's turn the clock. Let's talk about the peace process. Because when I met you in the 90s, people don't realize now. I mean, there's already another generation or two. You know, suddenly, look, every day we used to go out and cover Israelis firing rubber bullets at Palestinians, Palestinian kids coming out of school, throwing stones and getting shot, and some would die and some were mortally injured. And suddenly you were the chief negotiator on a peace process called the Oslo Peace Accords. And Israeli troops pulled out of, and this may seem like a distant memory, but I mean, Israeli troops left Gaza to a large degree. They left Jericho, Hebron, Nablus, Bethlehem. And suddenly Palestinian kids, I remember, came out of school and they played games instead of throwing stones and in confrontations with Israeli soldiers. It was an extremely promising time. Doesn't it disappoint you all these years later, we are still so far away from actually realizing a real peace process where the two sides are divorced.
I agree with you. I don't think we have been in a much worse situation than we are now as Palestinians and Israelis, and I'm afraid that's going to get worse due to the fact that the agreements reached with the Israelis in the 90s were not implemented. Settlement activities continued. And then it was culminated by an administration in the US headed by people like Kushner and Greenblatt and Friedman, who believed that this issue is not for negotiations. God decided, they said, all the issues, and they came with this idea without, I saw it like you did on TV about my future. And they wanted to impose and dictate on me, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital, no refugees, no borders, no self-determination, no state, nothing. And that's the tragedy. The tragedy at the end of the day is going to end when Palestinians and Israelis sit on the table in accordance with the terms of reference agreed between the two sides. Sit to end up.
What do you call Jared Kushner's, Netanyahu, Trump's so-called deal that you didn't participate in? How would you characterize it?
I read every word of it, and I met these people, Kushner and his team and President Trump 37 times in 2017. They never shared anything with me. I shared everything with them. And they're a group of ideologues who believe that Palestinians are not people with national rights. They should be subjugated to Israel. They should be living in enclaves. And Israel should control their airspace, their territorial water, their international passages, their roads, their futures, their land, their natural resources. And they don't realize that we are 99% literacy rate as Palestinians, 2020. We have the highest PhD, master's, bachelor's holders as per capita. And yet they're trying to impose on us now. It's not a plan of peace, it's a plan of apartheid, of what I call one state, two systems. It's a plan that is attempting not to learn the lessons of history. When you come to annexations. So what happened when Algeria annexed France for 130 years? What happened when Iraq annexed Kuwait in 1991? Annexation has been with those politically blind leaders who thought that power can get them the results they want.
And what did they offer you in return? What did they offer you in return? Some kind of financial prosperity and a buyout?
No, they want me to join the Zionist movement in return. They put 10 conditions on me that I have to accept that from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean, it's the Jewish historic land. They want to deny the fact that, I'm speaking to you from Jericho, I'm 11,000 years old. I was here 5,600 years before Yeshua ben Nun brought these Egyptians and came and built my town, Jericho. I have my own narrative. I'm not asking them to believe in my narrative or to adopt my narrative or my story or my history or my religion, but they should respect me. Now with the fact that it's written in this agreement by Kushner, that from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean, it's the Jewish historic land. I'm an alien in my land. I'm an alien in my house. And then they say they have the overriding security responsibility. And they say I have nothing to do with Jerusalem. It's their capital. I have nothing to do with refugees. That nothing is going to be in my hand. That's what they say. And at the end of the day, that's what they want me to do. And if I don't do that, I don't want to negotiate. I want conflict. I want peace. They use everything against me. And the heartless, I don't know, when you have people around the world saying that we share the same values. What values? What values do you share? When someone like Pompeo say, I walk with Jesus to recognize settlements. Jesus, this is not who Jesus is. This is not who Jesus is. Jesus is for life. Jesus cares for the lives of Palestinians, Israelis, Africans, Latins. Jesus is peace.
All right. So
he's the Prince of Peace. He's not the Prince of God.
They are going to announce not a peace deal, not a negotiated anything, an imposed annexation, which would carve out, as you understand it, carve out Palestinian villages, which would remain as Palestinian enclaves. Israel would apply some sovereignty over them. You won't get to vote in Israel, obviously, because you're not going to become part of Israel. It sounds like Swiss cheese, where you do not get this continuous piece of land, which would be a Palestinian state, because that's what you wanted.
It's true. That's what the map they offered. That's what they showed. That's what they want. They said, even Netanyahu made an interview in Israel Hayom in Israeli newspapers last month, and he said, look, Palestinians must understand that they will live in enclaves. Okay? He said that. And
so an enclave, so let's define an enclave. Sorry, Saeb, to interrupt.
An enclave is Bantustan, trying to get you the map that they offered in there.
I'm visually losing you because you're moving your computer, but
yeah, I
mean, essentially, go ahead.
Are you seeing me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to find a map.
But essentially, you have the West Bank territory, and an enclave would just be kind of a little island surrounded by Israeli roads, Israeli patrolled roads, Israeli soldiers, much like you are now.
No, I'm better now. I'm much better now. That's the irony, you know, with the Oslo Accords, we have 3 contractual agreements that specified 6 issues that will be negotiated between the 2 sides: Jerusalem border settlement, refugees, water security. And no side should take any steps that may preempt or prejudge these issues.
Yeah.
And we recognized each other, and we said the implementation of resolutions 242 and 338 is the objective of the peace process. That's the truth. And then we said, upon the inauguration of the council 18 months, all West Bank and Gaza Strip territory will become under my jurisdiction, except for issues to be negotiated permanent status. What they're doing now is saying, forget about UN, forget about international law. There is a new game in town. You were defeated. You must come to your knees and accept Israel won, and you will live here as we want you to live. We will decide your way of eating, drinking, studying, education, roads. You have no right to self-determination. You're not a people. That's what they're telling me, all right? And what this will do, this will do one thing. If they annex anything, it means the moderates, like myself, who recognize the Israel right to live in peace and security, who want to make peace through peaceful means, no violence, who accepted resolutions 242 and 338, will play the disappearing act. And then, you know, as you said, now it's a generational changes now. So many in the Palestinian young community, which is the majority now, okay, they say, look, you don't want 2 states? Let's see if we can entertain the idea of 1 state, equal rights. Jews, Muslims, and Christians can live as equals. Oh, once you say this, it's like throwing a nuclear bomb in Israel. Because they want to say Jewish democratic state. How can you have a Jewish democratic state when today I, Saeb Erekat, the Christian, Muslim, Palestinian, from my hometown Jericho on the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, I am 50.9% of the population. Friedman and Netanyahu are 49.1% of the population. How can you just think of people who are trying to impose a 21st century apartheid, segregation, and subjugation of Palestinians?